Alright, welcome back to Nick Lenz Comic Corner, Classic, Non-Classic. This episode 2806 and episode 2700. First reviewing Nightwing Roughed Up. Collecting issues of Nightwing issues 112 to 117. The final 6 issues of Devin Grayson's run for the book. Excuse me. Where the first few issues are just Nightwing becoming Deathstroke's apprentice for a few issues. And work with Rose and wearing not his Nightwing costume. Yeah. This is clearly on. Here's 112. Yeah, that's him wearing his Nightwing costume. Is he wearing the book? Oh, heck no. He just tossed him around. By the way, you have Phil Holston in the artwork here. So after fighting him, and of course, Rose showing up as Ravenger. And then here is Nightwing just putting on this random red costume. Yes, and he would wear this costume until 1:15. Well, yeah. You're like, really? Yeah, he wears his costume for a few issues, and then he's back in his regular Nightwing costume for, in story, no explained reason except for just a tie into Infinite Crisis. Yeah, that's really the reason for it. It's like, okay, so we lead into this whole thing after a few issues of him being, well, oh yeah, and also 115, he fights Superman. Yeah, and then like 116, oh, it's a tie in Infinite Crisis because, yeah, you could see on the cover, oh look, it's Nightwing in that red costume. But then the main book, nope. Yeah, it's like the cover that's not actually goes on the book, and Bullholzer's off the artwork. We have Wilton Ives and Look Mars. Basically, it's Bloodhaven in ruins. Yeah, and like almost everybody's dead. All damaged, and of course, Superman basically pulls out Nightwing. It's like, no, son. Anyone help is not safe. Kal-El, please. I'm sorry to Council's core. Creation. You know, human. It's my city. I have to go. I have friends to check on. Survivors too. Your city. My responsibility. I live there. Protect it. Make it better. Please. I don't want to defy you. Not now. But you can't keep me out. I'm telling you, Dick. You die. Duly noted. Yeah. And of course, we have where Superman's fighting Chemical and then saving police officers. And say goodbye to the Bloodhaven Police Department because after that, you will never see him again until New 52. Yep. And he meets up with Sophia, who was from the previous issues of this run. Yep. Then Batman shows up helping out Nightwing for the final issue of Devin Grayson's run for the book. I really, really wish I stopped doing that. Yep, and for the final issue of the book, basically Dick reunites with Barbara, and of course you have stuff more happening in Infinite Crisis. Like, we kind of want to wrap up the story here, and of course Dick Grayson he's basically injured. Of course, him and Batman were still related. We get fixed hopefully within the story. And then we have just Rose beating up her father. Because, oh, training, and of course fighting in his room. And of course, Nightwing breaks in with the radiation burns on him. Beat up Deathstroke. And of course, you have Rose that got the radiation eye. Yeah, basically, it's like. Finds out, yeah, he's got basically like a detonator, of course. Then Deathstroke just brings out a grenade and throws it at Nightwing, blowing part of his house. And then he gets a note and says, I'll be back for you, Slade. Count on it. And then, of course, we have Lady Blackhawk in, basically, to drop off, basically, Barbara. And they're fine, and, like, ready now. And apparently it looks like that he's going to propose to Barbara. Oh boy, this gets ignored with the very next story arc. Yeah, these two being engaged, it's ignored because Devin Grayson left the book with this very issue. It's not his conclusion, but it seems like complete random. Like, oh, let's just have it where basically Nightwing gets involved in Infant Crisis because that just happened here. So Devin Grayson comes back this book. Dick Grayson completely out of character, like working for the mob. And then, like, have that lead into him being trained by Dexter to become an apprentice. It's like you read these issues, you're like, what the heck would Devin Grayson even thinking? And then all of a sudden, oh crap, Infinite Crisis, I got read a tie-in. I gotta admit, it's actually a really good tie-in. Where he just basically goes to the city, and I have spoken to Chuck Dixon about this, okay? I mentioned before, he hates the fact that all those great characters that he spent time creating, with the exception of Lady Vic, all got killed in Infinite Crisis. Yeah, by the way, he goes to Amy's office to see a bunch of police officers. Presumably she's dead. Yeah. Excuse me. Yeah, it's like, okay, so they don't really confirm her death, but yeah, all those great supporting characters you had throughout this whole run are all gone. Yeah, and what does Dick Grayson afterwards? Where does he go? He pretty much spends the majority of the rest of the book in New York City. Yep, he does. Though next arc is, well, we'll talk about that another time. My gosh. Yeah, and then, excuse me, Amy, of course, gets written off by issue 17, and then, like, never seen again. Yeah, and this would be also not only Devin Grayson's last issue of the book, issue 117, this will also be the last time we see Bloodhaven in this book. Yep, we do. Yeah. And if you're really curious, what happened to City Bloodhaven? Oh, it popped up. The next time we do anything with Bloodhaven would be the Buy Off a Bloodhaven miniseries, which doesn't feature Nightwing. All that book does is the Freedom Fighter books. And they just pop up sporadically. It's a ruined city. It's completely destroyed. From a fan's perspective, it seems like they destroyed the city for no reason. Like, oh, we gotta show some devastation by the Secret Society civilians. Yeah. And get this. Originally the plan also was to have Dick Grayson die in Infinite Crisis. Oh, and do you know whose idea that was? You might be thinking, was Jeff Johns? Nope. Was George Perez? Nope. Ivan Reyes? Nope. Dan DiDio. Yep, he wanted to die in Infinite Crisis because he doesn't like the character because well, there was an interview he did several years ago where he apparently was drunk and claimed that he wanted to try to be Dick Grayson for the 6th TV show. He was like a little kid, and I'm like, that's so stupid. Yeah. And by the way, when they did 1 year later of this book, this ending is completely ignored. It's not his ending. But as for why this is ignored, completely unknown. But my final thoughts on Devin Grayson's run for this book. Her return was confusing. I do gotta admit, the last 2 issues are really good, but the first, like, here's the thing. She's back in this book for like 11 issues, and then she's gone. hands out the film right before we hand off to, well, Marv Wolfman. We don't have many issues left to review here for this series. Not really. If you're curious, how many are left? There is exactly about 23 left. And I'm going to do it in about 3 trades. So I'm going to give Nightwing roughed up a 8.5 out of 10. It's like, you read this, you're like, why did she come back for? To continue a storyline that maybe people are interested in. Now move on to Green Arrow. Now, I should point out though, no annuals. Next up, we're going to discuss issues for Green Arrow, issues 121 to 129, 131 to 133, 136, 137, issue 1,000,000 for this book, along with Green Lantern issues 92 and I think it's like 94 and 106. So, Dev Chugrick's will overview on the artwork here. Now, Eddie Fires basically is separated from him. He doesn't return until like late in the book, like very late in the book. So you have just Connor just doing just fighting martial arts stuff in here. Take on the Silver Monkey. It's like basically like to start with. Let's do some one shot. Let's do a one shot to start with, and then we move on to like an actual quick 2-part called Stormbringers. It's mostly put just, let's have Connor do a Western for a couple issues. Which, okay, interesting. And let's this woman pop up here who looks like she's a bit chunky. Yeah. It's a Western tale for a couple issues. Like, okay, interesting. And then move on to issue 124. And this one, there's more stuff going on here. Feels like a bit random, but nothing. But I do like the dialogue, but it seems like stuff is happening completely random. Like we don't have like a lot going on here for this issue. And then for issue 125, we then deal with a 3-part storyline that starts in this very issue, continues over Green Lantern, and concludes with issue 126. Yep, we have the 4th team up. We have the 3rd. I think this is the. Yeah, this is like the 4th team up. I think it's the 4th team at this point in time between Green Lantern and Green Arrow. But we see. Oh, look like basically all of it. Not really. Yeah, it's a really interesting storyline where, like, yeah. Also, a little bit after this, basically, Connor gets an apartment building he runs, basically because his mom wants him to sell on the roots. So he's not traveling about, and then basically he meets up with Kyle Rayner halfway through this issue for a quick team up. And of course, remember to see about when Hal teamed with Oliver and riding a dragon. And then move over to Green Lantern issue, basically volume 2, number 92. And you might be asking, is Ron March in this issue? Yes, he does. Yeah. For the 14th, it's going okay so far. Not as good as the last one. This one was still pretty good. Of course, you have Jay up here too, because... Excuse me, because I think at this time, I think that this is just before... that Jay hooked up with Donna Troy. Not Donna Troy, with Kyle. We conclude issue number 126. Yeah. It's an interesting team, but I don't find it bad per se. Nope. Then moving on to 127. Which, yeah, December of 97 basically all had these covers where it's like, oh, let's just basically have a a close up of the character's face for the issue. Yep. Yeah, and this is issue 127. This is the issue where Connor gets keys to his apartment building he would basically be home to for the remainder of this book. Yep, and where's his apartment building? San Francisco! Yep, and it's basically his adventures in the book. And also him, where one of his tenants seems like they're trying to fall for it. And then we have a quick 2-part storyline called Deadly Comrades. Yep. It's just basically just stuff related to being a landlord and dealing with more crimes in San Francisco. That's kind of what happens in the course of these couple issues. But then move on to issue 130. I'll be right back. Alright. Sorry about that. Alright, where was I? Oh, yes. Now, 130, the reason I skip over that, because that was part of a team up with not only Green Lantern, which I was the 14 with that one, and also a team with the Wally West Flash. Not a bad idea. You have basically successors of three characters, three very popular characters. You have Wally, who's nephew of the previous Flash. You have Connor, who's the son of the previous Flash, and Kyle, just basically just a successor chosen to replace Hal Jordan. Yep, and 131, Crackshot is back in the book. Yep, Crackshot is back because Crackshot really has a thing for Connor. And when he shows up, he's in his tighty whities. Yep, and then of course you have Connor's mom writing him in the book. Excuse me. Yep. It is interesting, though, the fact that... Now, my only guess is the reason why that Chuck created Crackshot, because, well, Green Arrow always hangs out with a hot blonde woman, so I guess that Connor needed a blonde woman in his life, just like how Green Arrow, his father, dated a blonde, though technically she's a raven-haired, later dyed blonde, aka the Black Canary. Yep. And this is a woman who actually worked for Kyle Rayner's father. Yeah, who just turned against because she had a thing for Connor. Then she walks off, and then basically we have next couple issues of Connor. Yeah, we have a quick 2-part storyline here where Eddie Fire returns to the book, first time since before issue 120. And this is basically Connor getting recruited to the Justice League. That's mostly put exactly what this 2-parter is, which he would definitely join Justice League. And then, like, right after this 2-parter came another crossover. This time with Batman. It's a crossover with Detective Comics and Robin part of Chuck Dixon's Dixon verse, known as the Brotherhood of the Fist. An excellent storyline. That's what happened right after this. And then, like, this is kind of weird. So, we wrap up that storyline to where his penultimate issue is another crossover with Green Arrow. I guess Chuck felt this though, hey, let's do one more crossover. This time let's have Green Lantern, let's have Connor team up with Hal Jordan, who at this point was dead. Because Hal got killed by Connor's father, Oliver, when he was paralyzed during the events of Zero Hour. Excuse me, actually, suppose that he actually sacrificed himself to save the solar system from a collapsing sun. Yeah, it's more like him being with the Justice League. It's like, yeah, I guess Chuck knew reading this thing, it goes back in time. Yep. Yeah. Yep. And it's like, yeah, and of course, basically, that how, basically, Connor references the events of issue 101. So he agrees to help with them to look for basically Kyle. And of course, doing Eddie. And then this issue will lead, and of course, he sees like this old man here. And then we lead into Green Lantern 104. Yes, Green Lantern 104. And this would be, fun fact, this would be the last team up for Green Lantern Green Arrow until Volume 3 would do one more of these. And then, like, if you think about, like, was there any more after that one in Volume 3? To my knowledge, no. There would not be another Green Lantern Green Arrow team up until Green Lantern Volume 5. Under the New 52, when Hal pop up during a really good story by Andrew Kreisberg. And I think, like, the next time after I could think of they had their team up was during the Green Lantern series by Grant Morrison. So eventually they would have 3 more teams after this, but long gap between. Though, the thing is, this storyline, Green Partners, would have part 2 come out during the Emerald Knight storyline. Storyline in the pages of Green Lantern. Yep. It's a really fun story. I enjoyed this for what it is. Yep. And then we move back to Green Arrow for his final issue. Well, there's one more afterwards. I'll talk about that. So, in his last issue, you have Connor talking to Superman about what happened with his father. It's a very good issue. It's a shame Chuck Dixon never technically wrote a Superman book. I think he wrote some crossovers with him, but never any of the Superman titles. So he kisses Mia, hands off basically his building. He basically sells it off. It's like a goodbye from the. He basically goes back to his monastery. And of course, well, fights off one more villain. It's basically Chuck Dixon basically having the series go into retirement briefly for a few years before coming back on the Kevin Smith. And then, of course, basically, like, yeah. And then, of course, like, and the rest of the day, of course, he puts the cigarette down. And then we go to, then Connor becomes a monk again, where he goes to his father's grave and cries. And then some time passes by, and then we have Peregrine Lake show up. And then we have a boot. Okay, a bit of explanation for this. Okay, what is up with the green boots? Okay, that is actually Hal Jordan. Yep, from what I've read, and Chuck Dixon himself has confirmed this, that is Hal Jordan as the Spectre. And the boot, that is Oliver Queen. Yes, it's a brief cameo. Yes, basically in a way, Chuck Dixon was set up Kevin Smith's run with this last issue. That's mostly put exactly what it was. And I'll get to basically issue 1 million in a minute, but Yes, he told a story once on his podcast of how he actually met Kevin Smith, where he met him sitting at Comic-Con before doors even opened. There was a good people there setting up, and he just him and another comic creator, I don't remember who he said it was, just saw him at his table by himself. No one's around him, and he was staring at the space. He was looking at something, don't know what it was. Like I'm not sure what the heck he was thinking when he did this. Now, this is not Chuck Dixon, it's Kevin Smith. And then, hey, Jake, give his hand out and replay like, "Hi, I'm Chuck Dixon. You're taking on my book Green Arrow," and then you have him just look at him, look through him. According to Chuck, it seems like he was interested in what type of soda he was going to buy, ignoring him. And yeah, he describes it as a really bizarre story. But yeah, that's who took the book afterwards. By the way, this actually came out in 1990. Let me take a look here about this. I'm also going to reveal why the book ended when I talk about 1 million. This came out in 1998. And then, like, right afterwards, we had issue 1 million, published, like, the following month. Yeah, it's basically Connor during the events of DC 1 million. Steve Vision Fisher. And that's it. That was the last official issue published for Green Arrow. And this came out 1 month after the final issue published. Now, before I get my final thoughts, why did this book end at issue 137? From what I've read, it was low sales. That was the reason for it. Which you're like, isn't that the usual reason why books like to end? Yeah, low sales was the reason I've read, the reason why the book ended. That's why Chuck Dixon left. From what I've heard on Kevin Smith's podcast, him writing Green Arrow was actually his idea. He actually volunteered to do it after he had turned down to do a comic book movie based upon Superman. He's like, okay, I'm going to turn this down, but if you buy Green Arrow, I'll be happy to do it. And, of course, he ended up seeing Chuck Dixon because of it. But now we're going to talk about the final thoughts on Chuck Dixon's run for this book and Volume 2 as a whole. Chuck Dixon's run. This run was really, really good. Not a bad issue in the bunch. I'd say the penultimate before this last one I talk about was okay at best. The one following this one was actually really, really good. And I think that Dixon, he loved, like, if I could tell reading these team-up issues, it seems like after that first one, it seems like he just enjoyed doing these damn things. I think also another reason why he did this because Green Lantern and Green Arrow teamed up back in the 70s, so let's do team between the two titles. At the time, Green Arrow didn't have a series, but Green Lantern did. And I felt this book was actually really good, despite Oliver being killed off in issue 101, but it was still a damn good book. Great artwork, great writing. And here's a fun fact for you. Out of this whole run, guess how many issues are in trade? Out of the Chuck Dixon run. 3. 130, 134, 135. 134, 135, that's actually collected. There's a trade that collects the whole storyline. I think it was like a compendium book. I think it was to finally collect the whole thing. But, and of course, the Green Lantern 130, that is Green Lantern 130 is collected in a Flash by Mark Waid trade. And that's it. But there's no regular trade that collects issues from this run. Do not know the reason for it. Chuck Dixon has no reason why none of his whole runs. The only thing actually is in trade is the first 80 issues. Yeah. Like, the Mike Rowe run was really good. Really enjoyed that. I think the Traveling Hero storyline was really good. Like, the Traveling Hero, I enjoyed that. It was a quick 10-part storyline. And then we had that prologue that led into Chuck Dixon's run. I never thought this run had a bad issue per se. I think Rowe's one was fantastic. I love that run. The filler stuff they had before Chuck Dixon took over was really good. I thought this whole book was fantastic. And I love the annuals too. Especially if the first 3 annuals basically were part of the first 2 cross-led with the 2 annuals for the question. But Here's something also kind of weird, though, related to these annuals. Like, annual number 5, which is an annual by Mike Grohl, is not in trade. Like, I would have thought, though, they would collect this in the Green Arrow trades by collect Mike Grohl's one. Nope, they skipped it. For no reason. And one thing is also a shame, though, is that DC has not done more trades for this run. Do not know the reason for it. I mean, you still got good numbers you can collect, but nope, you choose not to. All because some people at DC Comics still can't stand Chuck Dixon. And the way he describes it, the reason why I don't like him very much, because he has the ball to stand for himself. That was simply the reason for it. Yep. But I'm going to give Green Arrow issues 121 to 129, 131 to 133, 136, 137, 1 million, along with the Green Lantern Volume 3 issues 92 and 106. I give these issues a 9 out of 10. Yep. So, this is pretty much a particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications, and do hit this like button. I'm going to rest my voice for a bit, and then I'll do one more comic corner, and that's probably it for tape videos. Unless, of course, Fairy Tale 100 Years Quest comes out. But done for that, okay? Bye.